The economy of Albania has undergone a transition from its communist past into an open market economy since the early 1990s. The country is rich in natural resources, and the economy is mainly bolstered by agriculture, food processing, lumber, oil, cement, chemicals, mining, basic metals, hydropower, tourism, textile industry, and petroleum extraction. As of 2014, exports seem to gain momentum and have increased 300% from 2008, although their contribution to the gross domestic product is still moderate. History. The collapse of communism in Albania came later and was more chaotic than in other Eastern European countries and was marked by a mass exodus of refugees to Italy and Greece in 1991 and 1992. The country attempted to transition to autarky, but this eventually failed badly. Attempts at reform began in earnest in early 1992 after real GDP fell by more than 50% from its peak in 1989. Albania currently suffers from high organized crime and corruption rates. The democratically elected government that assumed office in April 1992 launched an ambitious economic reform program to halt economic deterioration and put the country on the path toward a market economy. Key elements included price and exchange system liberalization, fiscal consolidation, monetary restraint, and a firm income policy. These were complemented by a comprehensive package of structural reforms including privatization, enterprise, and financial sector reform, and creation of the legal framework for a market economy and private sector activity. Most agriculture, state housing, and small industry were privatized. This trend continued with the privatization of transport, services, and small and medium-sized enterprises. In 1995, the government began privatizing large state enterprises. After reaching a low point in the early 1990s, the economy slowly expanded again, reaching its 1989 level by the end of the decade. Macroeconomic trends. This is a chart of gross domestic product of Albania in national currency and in the US dollars based on purchasing power parity from estimates by the International Monetary Fund. For purchasing power parity comparisons, the US dollar is exchanged at 49 leks. Mean wages were $3.83 per man-hour in 2009. Albania is a middle-income country by Western European standards, with GDP per capita greater than the several countries in the region. According to Eurostat, Albania's GDP per capita stood at 35% of the EU average in 2008. Unemployment rate of 13.3% is considerably lower than many countries in Balkans. For example, Serbia has an unemployment rate of 24%. Results of Albania's efforts were initially encouraging. Led by the agricultural sector, real GDP grew by an estimated 11% in 1993, 8% in 1994, and more than 8% in 1995, with most of this growth in the private sector. Annual inflation dropped from 25% in 1991 to single-digit numbers. The Albanian currency, the lek, stabilized. Albania became less dependent on food aid. The speed and vigor of private entrepreneurial response to Albania's opening and liberalizing was better than expected. Beginning in 1995, however, progress stalled, with negligible GDP growth in 1996 and a 9% contraction in 1997. A weakening of government resolve to maintain stabilization policies in the election year of 1996 contributed to renewal of inflationary pressures, spurred by the budget deficit which exceeded 12%. Inflation approached 20% in 1996 and 50% in 1997. The collapse of financial pyramid schemes in early 1997, which had attracted deposits from a substantial portion of Albania's population, triggered severe social unrest which led to more than 1,500 deaths. widespread destruction of property, and an 8% drop in GDP. The lek initially lost up to half of its value during the 1997 crisis, before rebounding to its January 1998 level of 143 to the dollar. The new government, installed in July 1997, has taken strong measures to restore public order and to revive economic activity and trade. Albania is currently undergoing an intensive macroeconomic restructuring regime with the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. The need for reform is profound, encompassing all sectors of the economy. In 2000, the oldest commercial bank, Banca Combetare Trejtere, BKT, was privatized. In 2004, the largest commercial bank in Albania, then the Savings Bank of Albania, was privatized and sold to Raiffeisen Bank of Austria for $124 million. Macroeconomic growth has averaged around 5% over the last 5 years and inflation is low and stable. The government has taken measures to curb violent crime, and recently adopted a fiscal reform package aimed at reducing the large grey economy and attracting foreign investment. The economy is bolstered by annual remittances from abroad representing about 15% of GDP, mostly from Albanians residing in Greece and Italy. This helps offset the towering trade deficit. The agricultural sector, which accounts for over half of employment but only about 1/5 of GDP, is limited primarily to small family operations and subsistence farming because of lack of modern equipment, unclear property rights, and the prevalence of small, inefficient plots of land. Energy shortages because of a reliance on hydropower, and antiquated and inadequate infrastructure contribute to Albania's poor business environment and lack of success in attracting new foreign investment. The completion of a new thermal power plant near Vlora has helped diversify generation capacity, and plans to improve transmission lines between Albania and Montenegro and Kosovo would help relieve the energy shortages. Also, with help from EU funds, the government is taking steps to improve the poor national road and rail network, a long-standing barrier to sustained economic growth. Reforms have been taken especially since 2005. In 2009, Albania was the only country in Europe, together with San Marino and Liechtenstein, to have economic growth. Albanian GDP real growth was 3.7%. Year after year, the tourism sector has gained a growing share in the country's GDP. Data published as of July 2012 by the National Institute of Statistics (INSTAT) show the economy contracted by 0.2% in the first quarter of the year, a downturn blamed mainly on the Eurozone debt crisis. The informal sector makes up a portion of the economy, although its share remains unclear due to its secretive nature. Oil and gas. Albania has the second largest oil deposits in the Balkans and the largest onshore oil reserves in Europe. Albania's crude output amounted to more than 1.2 million tons in 2013, including 1.06 million by Canada's Bankers Petroleum, 87,063 tons from Canada's Stream Oil and 37,406 tons by Albapetrol on its own. 3 foreign firms produced the rest. Statistics. Macroeconomic indicators. GDP. $32.259 billion GDP per capita, $11.700 country comparison to the world, 95 GDP, real growth rate, 3.5% country comparison to the world, 109 inflation, 3.5% country comparison to the world, 114 unemployment, 13.3% country comparison to the world, 141 industrial production growth rate, 3% country comparison to the world, 113 agriculture products, wheat, maize, potatoes, vegetables, fruits, sugar beets, grapes, meat, dairy products. Foreign trade exports, $3.1 billion country comparison to the world, 121 imports, $5.8 billion. Country comparison to the world, 120 import partners. Italy 45.6%, Greece 7.8%, Turkey 7.4%, Germany 5.6%, Switzerland 5%, China 4.2%. Remittances, $600 million. Current account balance, $1.704 billion. Country comparison to the world, 152 foreign exchange reserves, $2.479 billion. Country comparison to the world, 103 energy electricity production, 5.201 billion kWh. Country comparison to the world, 113 electricity production by source, fossil fuel, 2.9%, hydro, 97.1%, other, 0%. Nuclear, 0%. Electricity consumption, 6.593 billion kWh. Country comparison to the world, 102 exports, 0 kilowatt-hours. Imports, 1.884 billion kWh. Oil production, 24.000 barrels per day. Country comparison to the world, 94 consumption, 36,000 barrels per day. Country comparison to the world, 107 exports, 748.9 barrels per day. Imports, 24,080 barrels per day. Proved reserves, 199,100,000 barrels. Natural gas production, 30 million m3. Country comparison to the world, 84 consumption, 30 million m3. Country comparison to the world, 108 exports, 0 cum. Imports, 0 cum. Proved reserves, 849.5 million m3. Country comparison to the world, 100 exchange rates. LECA per US dollar, 79.546, 92.668, 98.384, 102.649, 102.78, 121.863, 140.155, 143.485, 143.709, 137.691.